Wrestling is strange, full of larger-than-life characters, spectacular venues, and death-defying spots, but the common perception of wrestling to the average outsider is WWE, John Cena, The Rock, and so on. But there is a whole other world of wrestlers out there, young and old, trying to make a name for themselves as they rise the ranks, looking to become a legend in the industry. Today we will be talking about one of these men, Jay Briscoe, and how in the 20 plus years he was wrestling, he and his brother Mark changed the wrestling scene forever.
Reach for the sky, boy.
Jay Briscoe started out his career in Combat Zone Wrestling, a company known for their unorthodox hardcore wrestling style, where blood is shed in almost every match you see. Jay, along with his brother Mark, would make their in-ring debut in January of 2001, being brought in to lose to Trent Acid. The pair would soon move on to the Best of the Best tournament, in which Jay and Mark would defeat hardcore wrestling legend Sick Nick Mondo. Jay and Mark would then go on to face each other, with Jay ultimately winning this matchup. Despite this, Jay would lose the next round, eliminating him from the tournament. However, this performance would put the Briscoes on the map, bringing attention to the young upstarts. The brothers would win their first of many tag team titles in July of 2001, winning the CZW tag team titles from the Hate Club. This reign would not last long, however, as they would drop the belts in their very first defense. Mark would spend some time away from CZW, whereas Jay stuck around, even fighting for the world title in a losing effort to Justice Payne. Towards the end of 2001 and early 2002, CZW would move from New Jersey to Pennsylvania. However, this caused a problem for the Briscoes. The pair were too young by Pennsylvania standards to wrestle, with Jay being 17 at the time and Mark being 16. The pair would take up a new temporary alias, however, fighting Nick Gage and Nate Hatred as the Midnight Outlaws, where the pair would wear masks to conceal their identities. After a few more appearances as the Midnight Outlaws, Jay and Mark would disappear from CZW entirely, until April of 2003, where the pair returned for the Best of the Best tournament once again. Jay would be a surprise, facing legendary wrestler AJ Styles, in which he would win. He would then go on to lose in the semi-finals to B-Boy. This would end the Briscoes' time in CZW until 7 years later in 2010, where they would come back and challenge the tag champs at the time, Philly's Most Wanted, to a match in early 2011. This match would happen with the Briscoes ultimately losing. The Briscoes would, however, go on to win the belts in February of 2011, before quickly dropping them back to Philly's Most Wanted. The final appearance the brothers made for CZW entirely was in 2012, in a losing effort to the Christ brothers. Jay and Mark are most well known for their time in Ring of Honor, with Jay appearing on the very first episode to face Amazing Red. He would be accompanied by Mark, but he was too young to wrestle at the time. Jay would lose this match to Amazing Red, but it would start an amazing career for the pair in Ring of Honor. As Mark became of legal wrestling age in Philadelphia, he would defeat Jay in a match, starting a rivalry between the two brothers. During this rivalry, Jay would defeat and earn a world title shot against Ring of Honor World Champion Xavier. He would go on to lose the title match, however. After a tag match, where Jay teamed with former opponent Amazing Red and Mark teamed with Christopher Daniels, the brothers would cap off their feud in a one-on-one match, with Jay winning this time. The brothers then embraced and became a team going forward. This is the start of the Briscoes' legendary tag team run. Early on as a team, Jay and Mark would lose a tag title shot to AJ Styles and Amazing Red, but after a short hiatus, the brothers would come back with a bang, namely with Jay being the world champion at the time, Samoa Joe, in non-title action. He would be awarded a world title shot for this feat, which he would go on to lose. A while after this, the pair would lose in a gauntlet match, last losing to Izzy and Dixie for the tag team titles. However, due to outside interference helping Izzy and Dixie win the titles, the brothers were granted a shot at the titles, and with some outside interference of their own, the pair won their first ever Ring of Honor tag team titles. The next few months would be great for the Briscoes, as in defending their tag titles against Samoa Joe and various partners, both brothers earned a shot at Joe's world title while still being tag champs. Both would however go on to lose these world title shots. After losing the tag team titles to CM Punk and Colt Cabana, the brothers would temporarily win them back from Dan Maff and BJ Whitmer, who had won the titles earlier in the night, but they would go on to lose them again later in the night to Punk and Cabana. After a few years away, the brothers returned to Ring of Honor in 2006. It did not start well for them, losing 3 tag title shots in a row, but after a few months, as evil enforcers for Jim Cornette, the brothers would become tag champs once again, defeating Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal for the belts. The brothers would quickly go on to drop the belts in their first defense to Naruki Doi and Shingo Takagi, however. It would quickly bounce back and win the belts back, but Mark got seriously injured in the match. But Mark would go on to make a shock return just weeks later, coming to his brother's aid when the partner filling in for Mark, Eric Stevens, would be attacked by the No Remorse Corpse. This would leave Jay partnerless in the first of many matches with El Generico and Kevin Steen, but Mark returned, helping his brother get the win. This would lead to a months-long feud between the Briscoes and Steen and Generico, which the Briscoes would repeatedly retain their belts in steel cage matches, normal matches, and finally, the first ever ladder match in Ring of Honor. After some singles matches from Jay, following another Mark injury, the brothers would go on to drop the tag titles to Jimmy Jacobs and Tyler Black, for winning them back again in 2008 from a new iteration of the No Remorse Corps, who had won the titles from Jacobs and Black. Mark would then become injured yet again, but the tag team reign would be allowed to continue, as Jay would defend the belts with fill-in partner Austin Aries, before the belts were later vacated. At the latter end of 2009, Mark and Jay would once again win the tag titles for a now record 6th time against Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards. They would lose the titles to Claudio Castagnoli and Chris Hero, not recapturing them until 2011, where they beat Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin for yet another reign of the belts. They would lose the belts back to Haas and Benjamin, before winning them back yet again against Jimmy Jacobs and Steve Corino, as well as Caprice Coleman and Cedric Alexander in the same match. The final tag reign the pair would have, for a little while, would come to an end in 2013, as they dropped the belts to Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. The month after dropping the tag titles to Fish and O'Reilly, Jay would go on to defeat Kevin Steen to become the Ring of Honor World Champion for the first time in his career. Jay would make several defenses of this belt, namely against his brother Mark Briscoe, Matt Hardy, and one of, if not Jay's greatest ever rival, Adam Cole. On June 25, 2013, it was reported that Jay Briscoe's contract with Ring of Honor had expired and would not be renewed. The title would be vacated in July of 2013, with Jay cited to be missing time out due to injury anyway. Jay would return to hand the belt to the winner of a tournament to crown the new Ring of Honor World Champion, this being Adam Cole. Adam Cole would then attack Jay with the belt and ignite a feud between the two. Jay would begin parading around Ring of Honor with a new replica belt, proclaiming himself as the real world champion, having never lost a belt in a match. Jay would get his shot against Adam Cole for the real world title. This would be a losing effort against him and Michael Elgin. Jay would then go on to defend his version of the belt against Adam Cole, which would prompt a third and final match between the two, in which the belts would be combined into one again. Cole would go on to win this match to crown himself the official undisputed champion. Later in the year, Jay would win the world title once again from Michael Elgin, becoming the only ever two-time Ring of Honor world champion up until that point. He would go on a great run with the belt before shockingly losing it to another man who became synonymous with Jay in his Ring of Honor life, Jay Lethal. Lethal would prove himself as the new era of Ring of Honor by defeating Jay Briscoe yet again to retain the belt. After the match, both men showed severe respect to each other. In March of 2017, whilst teaming with Bully Ray, Mark and Jay would become six-man tag team champions for the first time in their career. They would later drop the belts to Dalton Castle and the Boys, but would get another shot later on against Hangman Page and the Young Bucks. Shockingly, Jay would turn his back on Bully Ray, costing himself, his brother and Bully Ray the title match. The next month, Mark would rejoin Jay, also turning his back on Bully Ray, ending this trio for good. The tag title reigns would not slow for the Briscoes, however, with Jay and Mark defeating one of the greatest tag teams of all time, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, in March of 2018 to become Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions for the 9th time in their career. They would go on to drop the belts to Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky just months later. In 2022, Jay and Mark would be inducted into the first class of Ring of Honor's Hall of Fame, being the only group inducted to date, along with singles wrestlers Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson and CM Punk. The final reign the Briscoes would ever have with the titles would come on December 10th, 2022, as the Briscoes defeated FTR to cap out their tag title reigns at 13. In January of 2016, through a working relationship between Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling, the Briscoes would have a very brief stint in Japan, becoming the inaugural Never Openweight six-man tag team champions, along with Toru Yano. They would go on to lose the titles the very next month to Bad Luck Fale, Tama Tonga and Yujiro Takahashi, with only one successful defense of the belts to their names. They would, however, win the titles back just 3 days later before quickly dropping them to Kenny Omega, Nick Jackson and Matt Jackson. After time back in Ring of Honor, the pair would return to Japan with a bang, winning the IWGP Tag Team titles from Tama Tonga and Tanga Loa, and after 2 defenses of the belts, they would drop them back to Tama Tonga and Tanga Loa. This would ultimately put an end to the Briscoes' time in Japan, a short but impactful one. In April of 2022, the Briscoes would find themselves in new territory for a good few months, showing up in Impact Wrestling in a losing effort to the Good Brothers, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. They would bounce back, however, winning the tag team titles from Violent by Design, Rhino and Joe Doring in May of 2022. They would defend the titles successfully against Violent by Design, before dropping the titles to the Good Brothers in June of 2022, ending a very short stint in Impact Pro Wrestling. Unfortunately, in January of 2023, Jay Briscoe would sadly pass away in a car accident. His untimely death stunned the wrestling community and sent fans, friends and family into grieving, having lost an amazing man. The wrestling world came together, paying tribute to a fallen brother, friend and professional wrestler, with Ring of Honor running a tribute show in honor of Jay. This show featured matches and segments with people of Ring of Honor significance and Jay's friends and family paying their honors to the man. On January 25th, what would have been Jay's 39th birthday, All Elite Wrestling would pay tribute to Jay, having a touching tribute video play during the show.
This pro wrestling right here, man. This pro wrestling's in our soul. This what we was created to do, man.
Tell me a story, you've heard it many times before. Look into my eyes, you've seen them, you've opened into this life we're making today each day so we can be new again.
This company has been my life. Ring of Honor is how I feed my family. When you walk down that dark alley, brother, you want to know who's got your back. And I'm telling you, that's family. That's family. So, man up, baby, man up.
My daddy's crazy, so I love my daddy.
All of the chains you're breaking into this life we're making today each day so we can be new again.
First things first, we love every single one of y'all. And this might be the end of an era, but it damn sure ain't the end of the Briscoes.
Look into my eyes, you've seen them, you've opened up the door.
On that same show, Jay's brother, Mark Briscoe, would defeat Jay's longtime rival, Jay Lethal, in the main event of AEW's weekly show, Dynamite. The touching moment was capped off with Mark winning via Jay's finishing move, the Jay Driller. The moment was emotional for all, with the show ending as Mark paid tribute to his brother, with the entire AEW and Ring of Honor rosters on the stage applauding. Jay, along with his brother Mark, are widely regarded as one of the greatest tag teams in pro wrestling history, holding the Ring of Honor tag team titles a record 13 times. The career of Jay Briscoe is one that many stars are envious of. Very few will ever live up to the potential and possess the talent that Jay Briscoe had. He was a world-class competitor in the ring and an even better father outside of it. It's safe to say the legacy Jay left behind will not be soon forgotten, as the memory will live on in the heart of his children, his brother, and every single fan who watched him wrestle.